The debate continues. Did ISSA get it right when the body voted in January to limit the number of foreign nationals eligible to compete in official high school sporting competitions in Jamaica? For those who may not know, ISSA, the Intersecondary School Sports Association, is the governing body for high school sports in the country. Many are calling the move myopic and xenophobic. Some of us, though, are still trying to get a full understanding of what ISSA is trying to achieve. And so we turn to the association's president, Keith Wellington. Mr. Wellington, it's a pleasure to have you as usual. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Ricardo, and good afternoon to your viewers as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Let's get right to it. Explain for us the rationale of this latest rule to limit the number of foreign nationals taking part in ISSA sporting competitions.
All right, so I think I need to just go back a bit, and it's strictly speaking, it is not a restriction of the foreign nationals. It's a restriction. If you go back to our rules in 2018, ISSA made some amendment to its rules where they instituted a quota system where there was a restriction placed on the number of student athletes who could transfer from one member school to the other after having represented their original schools. So what we have done now, 5 years after, is to also include persons who are moving into our school system from abroad after the age of 16. So there's no restriction on foreign nationals coming to our schools before the age of 16. But if you are a foreign national coming to high school in Jamaica having already attained the age of 16, then you will fall in the quota that is already applicable to Jamaican nationals who are transferring from one member school to another. So it is not a rule that has been instituted for foreign nationals. It is now as simply us including foreign nationals in the current quota system if they are over age 16.
Yeah, a couple of key questions here. One, why was it so important to include the foreign nationals as part of the quota system?
All right, so when we instituted well, first of all, we have always had foreign nationals attending school in Jamaica and participating in our sporting competitions. However, in 2018, when we instituted the quota system, which, by the way, was done in an attempt to create a more level playing field in terms of schools being able to recruit or pluck student athletes from other schools to enhance their own teams. When we did that, I think that as a result, we started to see a greater influx of foreign nationals competing in our various competitions. And in one case, by the way, Ricardo, I just spoke earlier about the National Premier League. In our National Premier League, there's a restriction on the number of foreign nationals who can play for a particular club. We had a situation where our school teams were having more foreign nationals than is allowed in our National Premier League. So what we found happening and what would have jolted us into this particular action is that we were finding instances where there were a number of foreign nationals making up in our mind and in our net percentage of a few of our school teams. In one case, we had more than 10 foreign nationals registered for a football squad.
And the football squad
included 4 national players from one country.
And the football squad would be how many? 30 for a season?
Right, so we allow persons to register as many as 30 persons, yes.
And 10 out of that 30 would be just over 30%, 33%. Some people would say...
I remember now the key thing with this as well is that these youngsters were coming in at 17, 18, going 19 years old.
Okay, so explain to me then, what is so significant about age 16 that the overseas students can come in and participate, not be part of the quota system once they are under the age of 16 years old, but if they're over 16, that's not the case?
All right, so our thinking at ISSA is that we do not want to prohibit the opportunity for young student athletes to come to Jamaica and to develop their their talent, whether it's football or cricket or track and field, right? So we are saying that if that student athlete gets here at age 13, 14, 15, there's an opportunity for us to contribute to their development. However, if they are coming in at age 17 or 18, we believe that it is more akin to us, one out of two things. Either our schools using these athletes as match winners or persons to gather points, or those persons coming to use us as an avenue for their own personal development.
Interesting. Are there any other adjustments that we can expect to the transfer rules? Because now this latest decision would fall under the transfer rules. Can we expect any other adjustments to this?
Again, a little bit of history here. Our transfer rules would have come about maybe about 30 years ago, just around 30 years ago. The quota rules would have come in place 5 years ago. We continue to make adjustments based on the environment, and there are a couple of changes that we have considered and will implement couple we have already started to implement, where previously, if you transferred from an ISSA member school to attend another, irrespective of whether or not you represented that previous school, you had to sit out a year. Now we're saying that if you transfer under the age of 16, having never represented another member school, then we are able to waive that sit-out period. So you could move from, say, Calabar to JC, and having not played for Calabar, previously you'd still have to sit out a year if you to JC. Now we're saying that if you're under 16 and having never played for Calabar, we are willing to waive that sit-out period. That's one change that we have already started to apply. Another one that we have discussed and agreed to is that when we instituted the quota rule in 2018, a decision was taken that whenever you transferred and the quota applied to you, that quota would continue to apply for the duration of your tenure at your new school, right, excepting where your old school was not participating in the competition. So if, for example, you moved from school A at the end of second form and went to school B, and school A, where you're coming from, did not participate for the next 2 years, then the quota would not apply to you. But in the third year, if the quota applied, your old school returned, then the quota would reapply to you. We have now decided that we will no longer have that scenario. If you move while your old school is not participating, then we will remove the quota application to you. We have also said that if a school does not participate for, I'm not recalling exactly if it's 2 or 3 years, then students who move during that period would never have the quota rule applied to them.
Yeah, but it remains the case, though, that if you transfer, let's say, as a 14-year-old from Calabar to Kingston College, that you remain a quota athlete for the duration of your time at Kingston College once Calabar remains in ISSA competitions. No?
No, not necessarily. No, there's not going to be a cutoff period. Again, there's going to be a cutoff period. So if you move at 13 or 14 previously, then until you get to the end of your high school tenure, you will always be regarded as a quota player. But now we're saying, I think it is 3 years or 4 years, we're saying 3 years, I think. After 3 years, you will lose your quota status. Even if the school you're coming from has been participating.
After 3 years?
And don't hold me to it in mind the 4 years. I don't have the document in front of me because we're still putting together the document so that it will be public in time for the end of the school year. But we have already shared it with our schools.
Yeah. As it relates to, just one more quick one on the foreign nationals. We know that a number of overseas student athletes are already in the high school system. Based on what I have read so far, the suggestion is that once they are already here, then they will not be part of the quota going forward. Does that mean if they are already attending school in Jamaica, or would they have had to register in an ISSA competition for them to not be part of the quota come September 1?
All right, so if they are already here,
Yes.
meaning they would have come in September 2022,
Yes.
will not apply to them. If they come in on May 1,
If they started school September 2022,
2022.
Because
Right.
I'm trying to differentiate here.
Before.
There was a particular case some years ago involving a Monroe student, and the big contention was registration for an ISSA event as opposed to when he started school.
Sure, it was a Monroe student?
Wasn't it?
Where was he coming from? Uganda?
No. He was coming from Monroe to Kingston College.
Okay.
Yes, that
Right,
one.
right.
So I want to be clear in this particular case, because you might have an athlete, for example, who has been in the system. Let's say you were at Dinthill Technical.
We know of a couple who are already here.
Yes.
They did not meet the eligibility criteria, so they could not have represented their school. So because we are aware, so those will not be part of the quota.
Yeah.
Because they have already been here, so we won't apply the rule retroactively.
Okay.
Yeah. Keith, I feel compelled to ask you this because the reception from the general public is not embracing this decision by ISSA. I know the vote went in the direction that it did, and from the collective responsibility standpoint, you're going to represent that position. But I'd like to know how robust the vote was, and was there significant...
Very robust.
Pardon?
Very robust. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was unanimous, including votes from some of the schools that these persons are in deep support of. Some of the schools that you and I would readily identify as the beneficiary of these foreign nationals, including those principals from those schools.
Okay, so define unanimous. When you say unanimous, what do you mean?
Everybody in the room voted for the change. There was no dissenting voice.
Not one
single person.
Not one single.
Lance, I don't know if we have a break or we have time. One of the situations that we have, Lance, is that many of these kids get here via third parties and they turn up for admission at some of these schools being introduced by persons who have a particular interest in school pride.
Yes.
And it is not necessarily that the school administration would have recruited these persons or would be aware or would have been approached by the parents, but third parties trying to get these persons. There's one coach who told me that he was under pressure to play some people.
Are you in any way suggesting, Mr. Wellington, that some of these kids may be here illegally?
No, well, that's another matter, but if I would want you to define illegally, I'm sure they're all here with the blessings of their parents.
Okay.
As it relates to whether or not the process of migration or immigration, that is a matter that would be the prerogative of people.
Sounds like you're opening up the discussion.
I am aware that there is some concern.
Okay, sounds as if you're suggesting that it may have been, while not illegal, unorthodox.
That's the way you would like to describe it.
I'm just asking you if that's an acceptable term.
I noticed you have been harassing some Manchester United persons, but you know that I was enjoying it, so you know.
Well, I'm a Manchester United person, Mr. Wellington.
I know, so don't let me start on you.
Let me say, though, that are you surprised with the public reaction? Because from a sample voting, I would suggest that the average Jamaican has not received this information well. And I'm really shocked to hear that your voting with the principals was completely unanimous and one-sided.
There was not. All right, so it was a sit-down meeting. It was a face-to-face meeting where persons got the opportunity. Because as a matter of fact, it wasn't a situation where it was introduced at a meeting and discussed and a decision taken. It was a situation where the membership brought it up in September and asked that the executive review the rules and come back to them. That review was done over 3-4 months, right? And then we came back in January, had the discussion, right? And again, the pros and cons weighed and a vote taken.
How many principals were part of this vote?
The attendance may have been close to 100.
Wow.
Mr. Wellington, as a non-Jamaican, looking on, listening to what's happening, do you feel that the rest of the Caribbean would feel had done, as if, you know, Jamaica is probably shutting them out?
No, I think it depends on how we send the message. For example, the media headlines has been saying that we have put a restriction on foreigners, which is not necessarily true. What we have done is to put a restriction on new students. We have expanded the restriction on new students participating in our competitions coming from another secondary school setup. So including, remember, this includes Jamaicans. So there's also a restriction on a boy moving from Nakova to Magati or Magati to States. So if we know, for example, that traditionally a lot of these kids that we see doing exceptionally well at Magati would have eventually ended up at States. But there is no restriction that prevents them from leaving Magati or from States taking them. So it is not anything that has anything to do with nationality per se. It is just that we have now decided that we are going to encompass all of these things, because what we're trying to do is to ensure that there is a development program in our schools, and the numbers will still allow, if you work on it, for example, for track and field, we could potentially have 9 times 150. We could still have 1,000 non-Jamaican nationals participating at our next champs.
Yeah. I am told that there might be some exceptions to the foreign national coming in over the age of 16 that ISSA would consider.
Yes, there are exceptions. So if you come here as a part of a family, one whether it's, for example, the diplomatic corps, or if your family has landed your parents have landed a job in Jamaica and they come here and you come here as a part of the family, or if, for example, your parents are studying at UWI and they take you with them, and so there's an established family structure in Jamaica, then we are willing to waive that that need for them to be a part of the group.
All right, we are out of time, Keith, and we're going to leave it there. We certainly embrace the fact that you have joined us here, because we wanted to have this discussion yesterday, actually. But you have clarified and put on the table a lot of the issues that we were seeking to address and to publicize. And we thank you very much for talking to us. I hear that St. Elizabeth Technical are under a bit of pressure chasing Wolmer's 166 all out in the All Island Schools final.
You do have something to celebrate.
I do. I'm not sure what the score is. I just heard that States were under a bit of pressure.
We are only at 98 for 5, I think.
Yes.
Replying to 166. And there's rain in Santa Cruz.
Right? Made by Wolmer's. Because
That's it.
We are good hosts.
Keith Wellington, thanks very much. It was a pleasure having a chat with you. And we'll chat again sometime. You've definitely clarified a lot of these issues.
Thank you very much, and thanks for helping us to spread the message too.
All right, tomorrow we'll be discussing this a little bit more, and some of what Keith Wellington would have said to us today. Very important that we delve into some of those issues. Stay with us, a lot more to come on the SportsMax Zone, including the second zone update, and we also have Lance Whitaker at the track.
Stay with SportsMax on YouTube and follow us on all social pages for updates, news and entertainment.